So now we're going to talk about physical wellness, or the dimension of physical wellness. And this one tends to be something that's a little bit more tangible, a little bit easier for people to understand, because it's talking about really our physical body and our physical health. And very often, particularly when you're working with clients, their their intuitive, sense that things are improving will be initiated by their sense that their physical wellness is actually improving. And so by stimulating improvement in that physical wellness, they start to feel more energetic and they start to become happier, and then they start to, through the experience of the physical change, start to experience that emotional and that psychological change as well in other dimensions of their wellness. So physical wellness, although more tangible, is also very powerful. So we should never neglect that. And of course, there's a direct link between our physical wellness and many of the other dimensions. And so, if you're working with somebody who doesn't really understand wellness, who perhaps might even be a bit resistant to wellness, starting with something that's quite tangible, such as the physical dimension, is often a good place to begin working with those people. And so physical wellness refers to the condition of our bodies and our structures, our systems. So we've got to keep everything healthy and working. That's what we need. It's all about how we engage in a physically active lifestyle and understanding how that physical activity relates to our physical wellness. In other words, a sedentary lifestyle is associated with overweight, obesity, and developing cardiovascular disease. But a physically active lifestyle is associated with people who are physically fit, they're aerobically fit, and they tend to have less chronic disease than people who lead a sedentary lifestyle. So it's about responsible engagement in health promoting behaviours and self-regulation of potentially detrimental behaviours. And there's been some research, some really interesting research around the area that once people start to become physically active as part of their diet and lifestyle and wellness plan, then the physical activity itself has a tendency to help them self-regulate other detrimental behaviors. So they start going for a walk, and get moving and introduce some physical activity into their lifestyle, and so they will then naturally flow on and go, well, actually, I want to eat better at the same time. And so they start to add in these additional wellness behaviors simply by starting the process of getting the body moving there. So consumption of the health promoting diet comes in there. And physical wellness is also about being self-aware. It's the early recognition and response to the body's signs and symptoms and knowing when to seek professional advice. This can be something as simple as waking up in the morning and you're thinking, oh, I feel like I'm getting a bit of a cold or a flu or something like that at the moment. Maybe I'm just going to take it easy today and just eat well, keep my fluids up, just rest a little bit and just let my body recover, as opposed to pushing through and forcing ourselves to get through a day, getting all stressed, which is going to compromise our immune system and make us more susceptible to falling ill with these kinds of diseases. But also recognizing when something's happening within our body that's not going the way we want it to go, was not doing what it should do, and therefore perhaps I should seek professional advice. And again, this could be because some acute illness or something is going on in the body, or it could be that you haven't led the most physically active and physically well lifestyle. You are quite considerably overweight. Maybe you know your blood pressure's a little bit high, whatever the case may be, and so you think to yourself, well, I want to turn this around. I want to start to become more physically active, and I want to look after my health. but maybe I should go and get some professional advice from somebody about the best way for me to approach that, given where I'm at the moment and where I want to be. Perhaps doing that with some professional advice is the best approach. And so that's being self-responsible and self-regulating our health-promoting behaviours and offsetting any potentially detrimental behaviours as well. So physical wellness can be described as the active and continuous effort to maintain the optimum level of physical activity and focus on nutrition, as well as self-care and maintaining healthy lifestyle choices. So basically, whatever affects the physical form um, is comes into the dimension of physical wellness, and we've got to be responsive to that continuously, and we've got to actively seek that. An active lifestyle requires that we actively and continuously engage in that active lifestyle. It's no use just getting up and going for a run twice a year and then spending the rest of your time leading a sedentary lifestyle and think, well, I lead an active lifestyle. That's not going to really work out well for your physical health. So it has to be an active and has to be a continuous effort. It's not something that naturally just evolves. It's something for many people will take time to and motivation and encouragement and support. And then over time, that form of lifestyle just becomes normal and natural. And you find that people, they won't find the excuses or the reasons not to be active anymore. They're actually finding excuses and reasons to get out and do stuff and to eat well and to look after their health. So in many definitions of physical wellness, such as Hitler's, physical health is also associated with the psycho-emotional elements of self-esteem, positive perception of one's own physical health, and the acceptance of one's own physical state. And so we really need to be very sensitive to this when we're dealing with clients in terms of wellness. Somebody comes in and they are overweight and they're not physically in the best state of wellness. We kind of don't want to say to them, "You're not well," or "you're overweight," or anything like that. We need to be sensitive to the fact that part of where they are and what they are will be influenced by other experiences and other psycho-emotional elements of their life. And we're not going to be able to unpack all of that in the space of a consultation. And so we have to be quite sensitive to that. And so typically I find that when we focus on the positives and go, well, what do we like about ourselves, or what do we want to achieve by doing this? And that it's great that they've actually come to get help. They've come to ask for advice about how they can do this. They're all positive things. And getting just to accept, okay, well, things are not, where you want to be at the moment, but you want to change. That's great. Let's engage with that. And so we have to be very sensitive to these things and be aware of the types of interventions that we put in place, because very often a person's self-esteem or their self-reflection or their self-image or perception of their own state will influence significantly on their intrinsic belief in themselves of whether they can do something. And so we see this with people who are often very overweight and obese. Turn around and saying to them, you've got to get up and go for a walk, or, why don't you go swimming, or something like that, can often be the wrong kind of recommendation for them outright, because they perhaps no longer see themselves as capable of doing that. And so we've got to find a way to work with them, to encourage them from a positive perspective, to engage with what they feel comfortable with at that time. And um, the inclusion of physical wellness is intended to recognize that a person may have a structural or other disability, but is still capable of physical wellness. So just because a person may have an injury, for example, doesn't mean they still can't engage with physical wellness. Just because a person has what others may perceive as a disability of some kind doesn't mean they can't be capable of engaging with physical wellness. And we should work with that person as an individual to create an intervention that works for them so that they can still look after that physical element. Because even if a person's got, osteoarthritis of the knee and they say, well, if I walk too far, my knee plays up and I end up in pain, I have to take more medication. Well, let's find a different form of activity that's not as weight bearing, that's not going to cause you as much pain. Or let's look after other elements of your physical wellness. So if at the moment physical activity is difficult, let's keep that to what you can manage, but let's look after your diet and let's look after your element of self-responsibility and love, and let's refer you on and see what we can get done about fixing your osteoarthritis in your knee so that you can start to become more physically active, and overcome that limitation. So I'll leave this one up to you because this is a great example of what we're talking about here, where basically, I suppose, physical limitations, or what we perceive as a physical limitation, actually may not be a limitation. And this TEDx talk is quite inspirational by Amy Purdy, and she is a double below knee amputee, and so I'll leave that up to you to watch. I hope you really enjoy that.